It really feels like the United States and Iran are on a collision course. Right now, diplomatic solutions seem to be just fading away. And a military conflict? Well, that's looking more and more likely. So let's break it down. We're going to look at how we got to the brink, what's really at stake, and what could happen next.
And let's be clear about the stakes here. They couldn't be higher. This is a direct quote from President Donald Trump, a pretty ominous warning about what happens if Iran doesn't agree to a deal on its nuclear program.
And this isn't just talk. According to multiple sources who are familiar with the planning, the U.S. military is already in position. They are prepared to strike Iran as soon as this weekend. So yeah, this is an immediate, unfolding crisis.
So how in the world did we get here? This is way more than just political rhetoric. We're talking about a situation with a very real, very tangible deadline, and a president who is actively, right now, weighing his options for war.
You know, that uncertainty goes all the way to the top. Sources are saying that President Trump hasn't made the final call. He's apparently been arguing the case with his advisors, both for and against military action. But at the end of the day, that decision rests with him and him alone.
So why is military force even on the table? Well, the simple answer is that diplomacy seems to have failed. To put it bluntly, the talks have completely and utterly stalled.
I mean, after 2 full rounds of negotiations, there's been zero breakthrough. Instead, you have officials on both sides using words like unbridgeable to describe the gap between their positions. That's a dangerous place to be.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem. The U.S. has drawn a very clear red line. Absolutely no uranium enrichment on Iranian soil. But for Iran, its nuclear capability is a sovereign right. It's non-negotiable. And you can see those two positions are just fundamentally opposed. There's no middle ground there.
And if you want a perfect picture of just how bad things are, listen to this anecdote from the talks. When mediators delivered an envelope with U.S. proposals, an Iranian minister reportedly refused to even open it. He just handed it right back. That tells you everything you need to know about how far apart they are.
So, with diplomacy failing, all eyes are shifting to the military buildup. And what we're seeing is an armada gathering in the region. This is actually one of the biggest U.S. deployments to the area since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. First, let's talk about naval power. The president has ordered not 1, but 2 full U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups to the waters around Iran. We're talking about the USS Gerald R. Ford and the USS Abraham Lincoln. That is a massive show of force.
And then you have the air power. The buildup has been incredibly fast and just massive. In just one 8-hour period this week, analysts tracked over 50 U.S. military aircraft, all heading towards the Middle East.
So what kind of hardware are we talking about? Well, the list is pretty serious. It includes advanced F-22 Raptors, F-15s, F-35s, guided missile destroyers, plus a whole logistics train of refueling planes, transport planes, and surveillance aircraft. This is a complete strike package.
Now, this massive military buildup isn't just for show. It's not just posturing. It's all designed to back up a very specific and very public ultimatum that was issued by the president himself.
And here it is, plain and simple. President Trump has given Iran a deadline, just 10 to 15 days to come back to the negotiating table and agree to what he's calling a meaningful deal. The clock is officially ticking.
So how did Iran respond to all this pressure? Well, their answer was just as direct. Tehran has vowed to retaliate and retaliate decisively, declaring that all U.S. bases and assets in the region are legitimate targets if Iran is attacked. Okay, so this brings us to the final, absolutely critical question. It's the one that everyone from regional allies to European governments is asking, what is the endgame here?
If the U.S. does pull the trigger and launch a strike, what's the strategic objective? What's the goal? This is the huge question hanging over this entire crisis, and so far, the answer from Washington has been dangerously unclear.
This kind of shows you the range of possibilities being talked about. Is the goal simply to damage Iran's nuclear facilities and missile sites? Is it to deter them from doing something else? Or is it something way more ambitious, like actually pursuing regime change? We just don't know, because the administration hasn't specified its objective.
And this lack of a clear strategy is exactly why so many officials in the region are getting nervous. They're warning that, hey, a military conflict is really easy to start, but it's much, much harder to control or to turn into any kind of strategic victory. The risk of this whole thing spiraling out of control is incredibly high.
And so this is where we are. The armada is in place, the ultimatum has been delivered,
the diplomatic channels have gone silent, and as that deadline just ticks down, the entire world is waiting